and then I'm going to tell you what the rules are. We actually have rules. I can tell you that one of the rules is that if you wish to speak, that you do need to sign up here. So at some point, if you haven't already signed up and you do wish to speak, you'll need to sign up, and then after Father Mark, I will tell you what the rules are. So Joy, did you want to?
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, I've written it down so I won't get carried away like I sometimes do. So I'm going to read it. We of the Yellow Shirt Brigade want to thank you all for coming this evening to relate your personal stories regarding how the NHS restructuring affects everyone in the Niagara Peninsula. The HIP program, or the HIP plan, was written in a few short weeks, and it is the plan of destruction of health care and denies all of us of our right to equal, accessible health care as promised to all Canadians. This is your chance to let the rest of the region, and in fact all of Ontario, know what is actually going on here. Because of the restructuring and closing of hospitals, the closing of beds, the transferring of services, and the drastic cutting of staff. A lot of people have been let go, and the nurses and the doctors are overworked and getting stressed out. Our doctors, nurses, and ambulance personnel are all being overworked. And it's all starting to show now. Most of them do not like what is happening any more than we do, but tell us they're afraid to speak openly because of their jobs. We've invited no speakers, as we have heard all they have to say many times. As our video said, this is our time. And if you haven't had a look at the video, you're missing something. A compendium of the stories told tonight will be sent to the Minister of Health, the Premier, members of Parliament, and the opposition, so they will hear the truth of what is happening to healthcare in Niagara. And this way, it cannot be discounted as rumors. At this time, I want to thank Father Mark for letting us meet here, and not only for that, but also providing the coffee for us. And I also want to personally thank Mayor, or former Mayor, I should say, Wayne Redekop, who readily accepted when June and I asked him to be our moderator and keep us in line. He's good at that. Wayne's been a supporter and fought hard to keep our Douglas Memorial Hospital and the services it provided. We also want to thank Niagara College students for coming out and videotaping this, and our own Mike Summers, who did our video and our ad for us. He's here videoing as well. So thank you all. And we have a spaghetti supper coming up to help us make some money, because all of the advertising comes out of our own pockets, and they're starting to get pretty bare. So in March, the little papers are at the back about our spaghetti dinner. We'll see you there.
We're the co-chairs of the effort to try to save the hospital. But I should remind you that that's a fight that's never over. As long as the community is growing, and as long as we want the community to prosper, there's always a need for health and hospital services. So this is a fight. I know John loves to hear that there are never-ending fights, but this is a never-ending fight, and I'm glad that John came out. Father Mark?
I just wanted to welcome you all to St. Paul's Church and say that this certainly fits with our ministry as a Christian congregation to have this meeting here and to support the no side and the, more positively said, our efforts to try to maintain the hospital here. It's a basic human right to have health care, and it's a justice issue for Christians, and we want to support this process in any way that we can. And Dr. Douglas is a very regular parishioner at St. Paul's. I can see him from my office window. He's buried in our graveyard. He's here every Sunday when we celebrate the Eucharist. So I have a bias as well, I should declare. But it's wonderful to have you here this evening, and thank you to the organizing committee to have it at St. Paul's. It really is part of the mission and the genius of this place when it was built, this parish center, that we would have this kind of meeting here and it would be open to the community. So again, thank you for coming. Well, I'm off to another.
Okay, now I told you that there are rules. You know the first rule, you have to sign up to speak. The second rule is that the comments should relate to health care or the hospital services in Niagara, specifically Fort Erie, if you've got a story that relates to Fort Erie. And as Joy has mentioned, what we plan to do is put together a compendium of all of the stories that we hear this evening and send that off to the Minister of Health, to the LIN, to the NHS, to the leaders of the two opposition parties, the NDP and the Liberals, and if we've got enough paper, we'll send them to the local MPPs as well. The fourth rule is that the experience should be something that is personal, something that you either were involved in or have first-hand knowledge about. Because as you can imagine, when we relate these stories to the government, they're much more effective, they carry much more weight if we have reliable sources, if there are names that we can attach to the stories. So I know that may preclude some stories from being advanced because people may not wish to have their names attached to them. But if you have a story, it's very important that we have your name so that we've got at least evidence with respect to the accuracy and reliability of the story. That means that comments should provide, if possible, names, dates, locations. If an individual is too bashful to speak, then you can, if you put something down in writing and you've signed your name to it, either Joy or
One of us.
Joy or June will tell the story here, and it will become part of the compendium. Each speaker will be allowed 4 minutes and to deliver his or her comments. A bell will ring at 3 minutes. At 4 minutes, if you continue, I pull the lever, you disappear, and your relatives can pick you up in the basement. So don't make me pull the lever. If you have prepared something in writing and you are speaking, it would be helpful if you could leave that behind. Otherwise, what we will do on the basis of the tape of the meeting, we will type up a transcript and your comments will become part of a compendium. But as you can imagine, it's much easier for us if we can transcribe something that's already been typed or written. Speakers must be respectful. This is we all understand this is a hot button issue. And the one hallmark of this community and the people that live in this community is that we have been very polite and respectful. That's something that I think we can all be proud of. You can be successful in your battles. You can do that by being respectful. So I would ask all of the speakers to be respectful, and I would ask the audience, if you don't agree with something a speaker says, and I can't imagine that will happen tonight, but I would ask all of you as well to be respectful. And that includes me. Please be respectful of me. Don't throw anything. For the purposes of clarification only, if a speaker has a story and they're telling it, and it sounds like we do need some clarification on a point, we can ask, I will allow a couple of questions if that's necessary. The intention isn't to have a big long debate, but there will be some comments made by some speakers that I'm sure will need some clarification. So we will allow some questioning. And finally, the forum is scheduled to end at 9 p.m. And so at 9 o'clock, unless there's still a line of speakers that wishes to speak, we will be ending the forum. If there are comments that you wish to provide to Joy or June, they will accept written comments signed by the person that wishes to submit the comments up until the end of January 31st, and you can arrange for that by calling Joy at her home, and